Hi, everyone. This is S.J. Thomason, and I am bringing on the most controversial temporal agnostic on Twitter. And he is going to tell us what it is to be a temporal agnostic and to distinguish that from being an atheist. And he actually wrote a blog on gods and gumballs, I think it's called, or gumballs and gods. And it was really good the way he was able to distinguish atheism from agnosticism. And so it kind of, the idea that people would say just because you're agnostic, therefore you must be an atheist is flawed. And so he's going to tell us why. And so without further ado, let me introduce Steve McRae.
By the way, I might be the only temporal agnostic on the internet. So it's kind of like I'm the best and the worst at what I do because I'm the only one. It's just not a common thing. Well, I should say, I think a lot of people probably are. They just don't call it that. I mean, a temporal agnostic is basically just an agnostic that holds the position that right now the knowability of gods are not the case, right? I don't have the position to say whether gods, I know or don't know gods exist. So temporal agnostics is saying right now, hey, look, I'm agnostic, but I don't have ability to decide. But yeah, thanks, by the way. I like coming back to your channel. You and I have our differences, to say the least, but I always like the way that we communicate with each other. And I like the fact that you actually take the time to read my stuff, unlike other people that have by fiat said I'm wrong. Literally the other day, I was in a Facebook group that I put my blog up for critique, and they critiqued, one person was critiquing, and I'm like, I don't think you read it. Like, oh no, I didn't read it. I'm like,
oh, that's crazy.
How do you critique something you haven't read? Because the blog post, the last one I just did that you mentioned, the gumballs and God, I had a mathematician, Landon Curtin, one of the smartest guys on the planet, look it over. He didn't find a problem with the logic itself. Now that, of course, doesn't make me right. It doesn't say, look, here's somebody who knows building and logic that says you're right, therefore Steve's right. No, that'd be a fallacy, right? That'd be a argument from authority fallacy. But citing an expert saying, look, if this expert hasn't seen a problem with it and you think there's a problem with it, show me the problem. So far, nobody has.
I don't see any problem. I thought it was logically very sound. And so can you explain what it is to people so they understand?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, there's, and this is on Wikipedia, and then actually if you read the wiki talk, a lot of people from 2015, people have asked for this to be removed because it's not really appropriate on the burden of proof page on Wikipedia, but because they put this on there and it's unrelated to be in some regards. And I don't know why it's on there in wiki talk. They've asked for it to be removed. I don't know it's still on there, but long story short, Matt Dillahunty's gumball analogy is on there. And what he's basically saying is this, and this part he's correct upon, that if you don't accept a certain proposition, it doesn't entail that you accept a negation, right? If I say, SJ, the sky is blue, and you say, well, Steve, I don't believe you, it doesn't mean that you're telling me that you believe the sky is not blue, right? You could have one of two really kind of positions on it. You can say, hey, Steve, I don't believe you. It's because I don't believe you because I think it's not blue. Or look, I haven't walked outside today. Maybe it's purple polka dot rainbow color. I don't know. But you don't have a position either way. And he's absolutely right on that. Matt Dillahunty is correct that if you don't have a position on the proposition, it doesn't by logical necessity entail the opposite. Now, there are some linguistic things called negation raising, which is just a byproduct of language that if we say, I don't believe, it might entail that you do believe, but that's a linguistic thing. And that's a completely different argument. And we see this all the time. Like if I say, SJ, will you go to the party? Are you going to the party tonight? And you say, well, I don't think I'm going to the party. I'm going to, in my mind, the perlocutionary act is called, think to myself, hey, SJ's not going to the party. She's telling me she's not going to the party. She's just framing it in the weak case of, well, I don't think I'm going to go to the party, but you're really telling me you think you're not going, right? So this is how we have a communication in speech act theory, right? But in logic, you telling me you don't think you're going is not a less necessary entailment that you do think that you're not going. See the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the gumballs, and that's what his analogy is. And I see a lot of atheists misusing that analogy and taking it too far. Because what they do is they confuse the no middle ground between belief and disbelief, or excuse me, belief and non-belief, right? So it is either the case that you believe or you don't believe. So if the gumballs are in a state, and the proposition is that they're even, there must be an ontological fact of the matter that they are either even or odd. There are no other choices. That's a strict logical dichotomy. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody was really going to argue otherwise of that, right? We're assuming that these are whole quantized gumballs. We're not going to run the whole thing. Well, maybe the gumballs don't exist. Maybe they're in superposition, right? Let's KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid thing, right? So let's assume that they're just, the propositions are even. Now, if I say to you, hey, look, Steph, I don't have a way to even evaluate this proposition. I look at the gumballs, there's a whole bunch of them. There's no evidence one way or another. And I say, look, I don't believe that your proposition that they're even is true. It doesn't mean I'm asserting that it's odd, right? But there is no middle ground between belief and believe and not believing. I either believe that they're even or I do not, period. But there is a middle ground between believing they're even and believing they're odd, right? If you believe something, you think the proposition is true. If you disbelieve the proposition, you think it's false. That's what it is in epistemic logic. Matt Dillahunty hasn't been wrong on this. He has a caller called in once and said that disbelief was belief in negation. And Matt tried to tell him, no, disbelief means you merely don't believe. No, Matt, you're wrong on that. Ask any logician. I have multiple citations from multiple textbooks. Disbelief is the epistemic status of falsity. Okay. But what they do is they confuse the no middle ground between belief and non-belief with believes P and disbelieves P, or believes P or believes not P, because disbelief P means belief not P. There's a middle ground to be had. That's what agnosticism is. It's not related to knowledge here. It's an ontological state, a position on ontological state. It's a belief position.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would say it's kind of like yes, no, and unsure. And so you give people those three options. You usually don't say, even on tests, well, on tests, you can't really do that. I mean, but on some answers, yes, no, and the not sure basically says you're not taking a position of yes or a position of no.
And that's a closed question. If a closed question doesn't have to necessarily be yes or no. A closed question can also mean yes, no, or no answer, or I don't have a position on it. I'm not sure. That's still, when you're limited in your choices, those are considered to be closed questions. Mm-hmm. And so when you ask somebody, do you believe in God? That there isn't really I don't know answer to that though. And the reason for that is you kind of do know whether you believe in God or not, right? I mean, most people recognize, hey, I believe in God, I'm a theist. If I don't, then I'm not a theist. So when I ask somebody, do you believe in God? And they go, well, I don't know. Well, it's very simple. Do you consider yourself a theist? Well, no, then you don't believe, right? I mean, it's a binary choice. But if I ask them, does God exist? Now we have a little more nuance. Now they can say, yes, I believe God exists, theist. No, I do not believe God exists, clearly atheist, because that's somebody who holds a position there, no God. Or, you know what? I don't have a position on the either way. The agnostic is saying, I don't have a position either way. I don't hold that the position that God exists is true, but I don't hold it as false. And that's where the gumball analogy comes in, because they what they're trying to do, and what I show in my blog, is they're trying to take even to be theist and odd to be atheist. And those are contradictories. One has to be true, the other has to be false. They both can't be true and they both can't be false. But your belief on that is not dichotomous. I could believe they're even, I can believe they're odd, or I can believe neither. That's the middle ground when we're talking about agnosticism. And I know Matt Dillahunty knows this. I'm convinced he understands this. I don't think he's like Arendt, who doesn't get it. Matt gets it, but he willfully goes out and tries to get people to be conflated on this, because I hear it all the time. Well, Steve, you either believe or you don't believe. He told me the same thing. Well, yeah, but that's not the argument, right?
Yeah. No, and I think now is Matt one of those lack of belief in God types of people?
No, and a matter of fact, I just proved this to somebody the other day, and I'm going to use proof as not logical. Usually when I say proof, I mean a logical proof, right? But I've demonstrated that because somebody had told me, well, Matt Dillahunty doesn't hold the position there are no gods. I'm like, really? And I had a clip from him back in 2008, I think it was. He says, look, I hold the position that there are no gods. That's exactly his words, pretty much. I hold the position there are no gods. He's always been a strong atheist in that regard, right? And I don't think that's inconsistent with his ontology and what he's been saying for years. He just defaults back to the lack of belief position. But if you ask him, hey, do you think that in the universe there are no gods? He's probably going to say yes, or he's going to try to equivocate or try to obfuscate. But years ago, when he started the atheist experience, that was his position. There are no gods. He thinks all gods are bullshit, right? So, I mean, this is not me just putting words into his mouth. I'm not prescriptively saying Matt believes this. He has actually espoused this particular position, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure your audience who's been following the atheist experience have heard him say this, which is fine. He's no big deal, right? But then he's trying to say that because I'm holding a middle ground, he's trying to say that middle ground doesn't exist because he's saying, well, it's either believes or doesn't believe. Right. But the middle ground is not between belief and not belief. There's no middle ground to be had there. And I think he does this on purpose. I think he obfuscates this because, as you've seen lately, Matt has been willfully lying about me. And this is why I've been going on various channels, because I am like, after 2 years, had enough of it. I wrote Matt an open letter and said, look, we may disagree, but you're now actively lying about me. I'm asking you politely to stop it. Because he has actively said things like I'm a prescriptivist, which I'm clearly not. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Michael Jones on The Place about prescriptivism. We have postponed it to the 20th, but he's a PhD in linguist. He thinks Matt is playing word games, and he's sick of it as well. But I have never, since I've been on YouTube, prescribed to anybody what you have to use. And I'm not a language prescriptivist. I'm a descriptivist. I don't think that you have to have formal rules to have communication. I don't say, look, your grammar has to be exactly this. You can't have a dangly participle. You can't have a split infinitive. You can't use ain't. You can't use, common colloquial words that are not even in the dictionary, but we understand when we talk to each other. That's what a prescriptivist would do, right? They say you must use language this way, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, I actively have called him out and said, "You're lying about me. Stop it."
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's just not. And it's now. Does he have you blocked on Twitter?
Matt? Oh yeah.
He has me blocked too. I don't even know what I did to him. And he said one time I put out this tweet that basically had 10 reasons. It was a link to my blog that said 10 reasons why God exists. And so he responded to it saying that it was wrong or something like that. And then I went to go respond to him and he blocked me.
Well, no, that's exactly what happened to me. I was talking to a friend on Twitter, and this is still up there. People can go look at my timeline. You can find it. We were talking about multi-valued logics. And in multi-valued logics, normally in a proposition, it's either true or false, the law of excluded middle. But in multi-valued, you have another one called U, which is unknown. So a proposition can be true, false, or unknown. It's a third state. Doesn't exist in classical, but it does exist in multi-valued logic. And Matt chimed in, "You're wrong." That's what he wrote. "You're wrong," if I'm recalling correctly. And I'm like, "Well, what am I wrong about, Matt?" He's like, "Well, you either believe or you don't believe." I'm like, "That's irrelevant to what we're talking about. We all agree that." I have this happen the other day. Somebody's still telling me, "You believe or you don't believe." I'm like, nobody's arguing against that. That is a straw man argument. That's an effigy you're building up to relate something that nobody's ever said anyways. You either believe or you don't believe. But there are things like multi-valued logics. And there's also a middle ground between believes P and believes not P. They keep insisting that I'm wrong because I'm espousing to them philosophical understandings and the logic. And they're going, "Well, Steve's wrong because reasons." They've never demonstrated why I'm wrong. No expert agrees with them. I've had people tell me, "Well, Steve, I have experts that disagree with you." Great. Where are they?
Yeah, no, I want to say, because that's what you said. I think this is one of your biggest contentions. And you had it in your blog, as you said, you don't like it when people say, because you're an agnostic, therefore you must be an atheist, essentially.
Correct. Okay. So the long story short, and I was just on the ACA Discord last night, and I know the admin over there really, really well. Nice guy, very, very brilliant. And he even agrees with me on this because this is, again, logic. When you say something like, you must be atheist or theist, first of all, that is prescriptive because they've limited your choices. It is like me saying to you, SJ, "Hey, I'm going to have you for dinner. You can have chicken or fish. You don't want chicken, you get fish." Right? Okay, there's a dichotomy there, clearly. But it's not a metaphysical dichotomy, right? There's other options, like ham, pork, pasta, but I'm only limiting to you these two choices. So what the atheist community of Austin does and American Atheist does is they artificially limit your choices by renaming not theist, because you have theist or not theist, which is by necessity, right? So if you have sky's blue, the sky's not blue, theist, not theist, A or not A. And they're arbitrarily changing not theist to atheist, right? If they want to do that for their group, knock yourself out. That's up to them. But then you have a modal scope problem, because when you say you must be either atheist or theist, that only exists in what's called relative scope. It's a relative necessity given the choices, but modality-wise to the whole, it's not the case. There are other positions other than theist or atheist when you accept more sensu stricto or sensu strictissimo definitions, which are in academics normative. And so I go by the normative usages in academia, which, by the way, 2-3 years ago, these groups did not want people to know about. They were like, Steve's just making this stuff up. There's no other usages. If you go to American Atheists, they say atheism is one thing, a lack of belief. RNS says there's only one correct usage, which, by the way, prescriptivism. And for years, I've been explaining to people that no, there are other usages. And because of that, I've been vilified. And it is if anybody can show me that is a metaphysical fact that you must be theist or atheist, I would love to see that proof, because I can tell you right now, it's a modal school fallacy. And I've demonstrated, I've literally shown the logic on that. And everybody who knows logic has agreed. And again, not saying I'm right because they agree, but why isn't there any logicians out there going, oh yeah, no, this is wrong? Because it's logic, and you can demonstrate the logic's right or wrong.
Yeah, no, it made a lot of sense. Your blog made a lot of sense. And so it is kind of funny that there's so many people who gang up against you. And one of the things that, in case people don't know, if they're just joining, they haven't heard of you before, but you used to run a non sequitur channel with Kyle. And right now, Kyle, can you give us an update on that? Because that's actually how I got to know you.
Yeah. Okay. So long story short, I had a very successful channel called the Non Sequitur Show. I had my partner tried to lock me and the producer out of the show and cut us out. Failed to pay me for services as a co-owner, which was established from the very beginning. The court has determined that it was a 50-50 partnership. Plus, I have overwhelming evidence of the case. And he has subsequently been found liable for fraud, fraudulent conversion, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, and unfair and deceptive trade practices. These are uncontested right now. I mean, these are facts. These are literally has been found liable for. We're looking for at least about $100,000 judgment, give or take.
Wow.
But we haven't asked for monetary damages yet, because he has failed to give us necessary information that he's been ordered to the court to give us. We have a motion on the table for contempt charge that has been approved by the judge. We will schedule a hearing in June, give or take. And he has to go in front of the judge and explain why he's not in contempt. The onus falls on the contemptor. It has been established that there's enough evidence to suggest that he is in contempt of court. The judge has determined there's enough evidence that he's in contempt. Now he has to explain to the judge why there shouldn't be ramifications and why he's not actually in contempt. He has the onus now. That's where we are in the court case.
And you guys where he lives, for example. So he's getting this documentation. It's been served.
Oh, absolutely.
To him, right?
Yeah. He's already responded to the court, and he's well aware of the suit. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Because he just dropped off of Twitter. He dropped off of YouTube. I haven't seen him anywhere in at least a year
he's around.
now.
He's got an interview coming up in a few days.
Oh, he does.
Nick's channel.
Nick Suter? Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Okay. So that's interesting. So he is around. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. When he was on the channel Non Sequitur initially with you guys, before it took like a SJW sort of turn, I thought he was a nice guy. I mean, he seemed really straightforward. So I was actually sad when I saw all this come down. I also thought,
well, we all were kind of fooled by it, but I mean, the facts, I go by facts of the matter, and the facts of the matter is, I had a year and a half worth of work that I dedicated to that show, and he took $60,000. Now it's somewhere in that ballpark. 50. He's saying it's only 50,000 that he took. I'm like, okay, well, I still think it's higher, and I can show that there was stuff at the Amazon list. I can show there's a VMix. There's other assets involved. I think it's much closer to 60. But his argument is, well, no, I only stole 50,000.
His argument.
Okay, that's your counter, because he did. He literally stole. I mean, it's fraud. I mean, he has fraudulently taking $50,000 or 60,000. I mean, that's ballpark.
Yeah,
I mean, that's facts and the evidence. I mean, there's no denying that he was found liable for fraud, which means he has taken the money. My lawyer has now called it absconded with the funds, is the terms he used.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's not good. Obviously, it's a pretty bad deal that you had to go through that too, because I'm sure you have good uses for your part of that money.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't doing it for free, even though some people have tried to say that. I mean, there's a YouTuber out there that has actually said, well, Steve never cared about the money. I'm like,
everybody has to pay your bills.
$60,000. Well, half of that would be $25,000 or $30,000. But who just goes around saying, 30 grand, whatever. I mean,
yeah, no,
Steph,
of course.
I said to you, hey, I'll give you 30 grand, but if you don't want it.
Yeah, of course you want it. And it's like, you have a daughter, she probably is she at the age where she has to go to college at some point?
She has, well, I've told people she does have a college trust fund. That was my dad passed away. He left her the VI, GI Bill, or the VA, what are the death benefits?
Yeah.
Which we as a family agreed to, right?
But you still have other uses for it.
Yeah, it would have been divided between, my sister and I, but I was like, no, this needs to go to my daughter. Everything I do is for my daughter. And she has a pretty good college fund. But I told her in 2018, on November 28th, 2018, I told her mom, and I told her, look, I'm doing this show. It's going to take off. It is taking off. Make sure that you have all the information here. And I sent them all the information for residuals, right? And, I'm being told later on, oh, well, Steve never said anything about perpetuity or residuals. I'm like, the hell I didn't. I actually got conversations with Bull a long time prior to our split up about talking about these things. And this was something that I was doing for my daughter for back in 2018.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's of course I wanted her to have something. This thing, especially if something happens to me, she has all my access to my information.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And it's, even if I think about it with my kids too, I told my kids, I said, if you graduate from college, that's great. I might give them something, but if they graduate from the master's program, if they get an MBA, and it has to be in specific fields, then I'll give them a good down payment for their house. So it's whether or not they're paying for college, but I definitely want, I want to take care of them just like you want to take care of your daughter. So
yeah, my daughter has to maintain like I think she settled for a B- average, but I told her, look, I don't care what you study, although I wish she would have gone into the more STEM things. I don't think she's going to, but I said, you still have to take some science stuff. She's okay with that. She likes science, but I think if she does go into science, she'll go into, believe it or not, earth science.
Oh, interesting.
I think that'd be kind of, yeah, whatever makes her happy, but she does like earth science more than any other sciences.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And yeah, so she can maybe, who knows what she'll go into next. Is she also agnostic like you?
Yeah, she's probably more agnostic. I mean, she went to a Catholic school when she was growing up. It didn't bother me. I think they tried to indoctrinate her a little bit, but I think she grew out of that, and now she's just, I think she's more apathetic than anything else.
Okay. Yeah, no, I went to a Catholic school too, and actually left the church for about 20 years. I was pretty much waffling about because of Catholic, I wasn't really happy with the way that the Pope is handling a lot of that stuff, but that's a whole different topic for another day.
Right. By the way, did you put my blog in the video description?
Oh, I don't know if I did, but I definitely will. So I'm going to he's got a really good blog. It's on Facebook right now. So I'll put a link to his blog as soon as I get off here. But I also wanted to ask you, you interviewed today, I caught a little bit on your channel with you interviewing David Silverman, who's speaking of other controversial kind of figures. And David Silverman was the head of American Atheists. And actually I looked at his background at one point and I saw that he had a marketing degree. And so when he was an American Atheist, he was definitely going around doing a lot of conventions and marketing.
Oh yeah, no, he's good at it. Yeah, no, I mean, he brands. Yeah, no, I've known Dave for quite some time, and we were on Drunken Peasants together. He's been on my channel before. I happen to get along with David. We don't agree on certain things, but you and I don't either. And this is what I'm trying to tell people. You don't have to agree with people to have conversations with them, right? I mean, that's a separate issue, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a great discussion this morning. I think he's backed off some, and he's even told me that he's backed off some of his positions when it comes to the whole atheist agnosticism anymore. He doesn't really care one way or another, because we were so strict on it before. But I think other people have talked to him as well and said, look, dude, you're running against philosophical precedents here, and you need to really provide an argument rather than just by stating this is the case. And so I think he's kind of backed off that, but we haven't had that actual discussion because I'm not going to blindside him, right? I'm not going to have him on the show to talk about a certain topic and then try to, hey, let's get into the whole, what agnosticism is thought of kind of thing. But yeah, no, it was a good discussion. I really think people should check it out. I'm going to have him on again. And plus I'm going to be on his channel in May, I think. But I can get along with him. I don't understand why someone like David, who is a firebrand atheist, accepts me as the, as you put it, the most controversial agnostic on YouTube. He has no problem with me personally. We get along. But I got Matt Dillahunty, who prescriptively says I'm wrong by fiat, by ipsedixit. Oh, Steve's wrong, no evidence. And then worse, puts out, what he does is he defaults to other people and say, look, here's a video, go watch this, Steve's wrong. When this video doesn't show that I'm wrong. It's like,
oh, he did that? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
no, I haven't watched, I can't say for a fact, because I haven't actually watched the video, I just heard. But from what I've heard, it's just nonsense. I mean, nobody who has actually tried to say that I'm wrong has demonstrated it without having to resort to straw manning. But then they're not demonstrating it. What they're doing is they're burning down an effigy, right? And I don't understand that. What's the point of burning down an effigy? If you think I'm wrong, show me what I'm wrong based upon my arguments. But this person who makes these videos does Frankenstein cuts, takes quotes out of context purposefully, and says I argue things I don't argue. Like, I guess one of the things somebody had told me was like, because there was this I did a debate the other day, I wanted a debate, and I got asked this question. I thought it was odd. I figured out why. But they're like, do you think that rocks are agnostic? And I'm like, no, of course not. Rocks are not agnostic. Agnostics have to just suspend judgment on, right? It's an epistemic disposition where you suspend judgment on it. It's a psychological state. Agnosticism would be a psychological state of being agnostic on the proposition, meaning you have no belief either way, which is ontological. We're not talking about the epistemological proposition of the knowability of gods. That's a distinct different proposition. So people have to understand there's a difference between ontology and epistemology there. And what this person supposedly did, and again, I've not watched this, so this is subjective, right? I'm not saying this is a fact, but from what I've heard, they took one of my videos that I had where he came on, where I was doing an internal critique saying, if you do this, this is what it leads to. And then he was forcing me to say, well, if according to this, are rocks agnostic? I'm like, yeah, rocks are agnostic according to the way you're doing this, but I don't do it that way because I think it's ridiculous. You know, I've never argued that rocks are agnostic. It's completely ludicrous to me. I think rocks and being atheist is completely ludicrous to me. But you got Bionic Dance who's argued that it is, right? She's all, rocks are atheist. I'm like, no, that's stupid.
No, but didn't you have an argument? I see somebody in the chat, by the way, has rocks are agnostic in his or her name. So, but didn't you make an argument about lack of theists and rocks lack of theistic beliefs or something like that?
Well, I mean, if you want to be like super, super technical, to have a belief, you have to have a conscience. If you don't have a conscience, you can't have a belief, right? So sure, inanimate objects lack a belief, right? But
yeah.
Do atheists really want to put everything that exists, any object, into the category of the set of things that are atheist? That waters it down to be meaningless. Why would you want to do this? Why does somebody like Bionic Dance want to make it rocks are, atheist? And by the way, using her logic, it does follow from her axioms, right? I will actually tell you, her logic is not incorrect if you start with her axioms. But starting with her axioms is where I say, no, you shouldn't have these axioms because this is the absurdities that it leads to. But if you want to have these axioms and you want to believe that rocks are atheist, go nuts. I personally think it's absurd.
It is funny,
right? I mean,
but it is so
funny. I don't
funny
have
how
axioms.
You'll say, I mean, I almost get to the point when I look at your timeline on Twitter, it's like you could say something like, just like you said, the sky is blue, and you'll have 20 people jumping in there to disagree with you.
That's fine. But here's the thing. All you got to do is show me the logic, right? I mean, logic is objective. Show me when anybody's ever said your logic's wrong, not one person has done the logic and said, here, proof, blah, 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 blah. Here it is. Not one. So why is that? When I do have logic, obviously on my blog, I might make a mistake, who knows? But the gumballs and God one that I showed, explaining the different, middle ground thing, I had an expert in Boolean logic review it. I mean, literally, Landon Kurt Knoll is one of the smartest guys on the planet.
Yeah, no, I like and I'm definitely going to put a link to that. So
and
you guys can
Landon,
read that.
I mean,
but even just the basic, just a basic everyday, yes, no, unsure, that's the position. Yes, you're theist. No, you're an atheist, or unsure is you haven't taken a position yet. So
yeah, but what the atheists have been trying to do, and this goes back probably around the days of Anthony Flew, back in like 1972, he wrote a paper called The Presumption of Atheism, which has been thoroughly annihilated. He didn't even believe his own paper. He became a theist later on.
Yeah.
But they try to change the normative understanding of the word atheist in philosophy. And even Flew points this out. In philosophy, the way atheism is understood is the positive epistemic status, or the belief that God does not exist. He wants to change it. He wanted to change it and argue in the negative. Dr. Michael Martin does the same things. Dr. Stephen Bullivant does the same thing. They want to argue that they want to put in the negative, because, and that is non-standard. It is atypical. But by doing so, they have forced people to subsume positions like agnosticism, right? Because now the necessary and sufficient condition for atheism is merely somebody who lacks a belief rather than somebody who has a positive belief. And the problem with doing that is that another one of my arguments that I don't know if you've seen, it's on my blog, is that if you let them do that, right? Okay, they can do this. I'm not saying that they cannot do this for their organizations, right? Because creationists can say, look, I want to redefine kind to be a species to be kind, and theory is a guess. Okay, do it for your group, but it is not going to change science. And so if you allow them to do that, then a theist could come in. And by the way, you have a lot of theists that follow you. I mean, you're pretty well known in theist communities, and theists should run with this. But the reason they don't is I think theists are going to be intellectually honest and not actually hold to this, but the logic is sound. If a theist says, hey, if you don't hold the position that gods do not exist, right, which is the atheist proposition, you are a weak theist, ergo you are a theist. And let me clarify that for people that don't understand argument. And by the way, if you don't allow that, that is special pleading by definition. So let me explain why that argument works. And what an atheist is doing when they say, if the proposition God exists, and if you do not affirm that, they're going to call that a weak atheist, right? Somebody who just lacks a belief, right? And then they just say, they drop the weak and they just call it atheism. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, then the theist could do the exact same thing of the negation. If you don't affirm the negation, you're a weak theist, and we're just going to call you theist. Now, the reason theists don't do that because the theist is beholden to the fact that they do believe they're their God, and they want people to believe in God. So they have reasons not.
Wait, hold on just one second. Let me just, Gavin, can you not hide anybody? Because I see a couple people you've been hiding, and please don't hide anybody. I don't want to hide people. Let them chat.
And so a theist has a reason to say, look, no, we only want theists to be in the position that there are beliefs that God does not exist. I get that. I think that's honest, by the way. I think it's a little bit dishonest when atheists when they say, look, we're just going to make it a lack of belief. They can do it. I think it's a little intellectually dishonest because it assumes my position, but a theist could do the exact same thing. This is why what Dr. Graham Oppy wrote, agnosticism is no more closer to theism than it is atheism, for that very reason. Both of the group can do that, but by doing so, weak atheism equals agnosticism equals weak theism. They're logically indistinguishable from each other at that point. Why water these things down? Why lose the granularity we have when it comes to beliefs, right? I want to know what your beliefs are. And if somebody says, I believe God exists, boom, I have something to have a discussion with them. They just say, look, I don't believe God exists. Okay, great. Let's talk about fishing or something, whatever.
Yeah. Now, do you think the people who say that they lack a belief are doing it because they want to shift the burden of proof?
Some do. Absolutely. Some do. I without question. Do I think it's the majority? Probably not. I think a lot of them just have been brainwashed to think that is the only definition of atheism, right? And where the projection comes is I have for years explained to people that's not the only definition, right? I mean, American atheist says atheism is one thing, the lack of belief. They're wrong on that. It's just fundamentally wrong. And so I get vilified, and they say, well, look, Steve is saying atheism is only one thing, the belief that God does not exist, which has never been my argument. I've never argued that. I say this is what is normatively held in philosophy. Accept it, don't accept it, use your own definitions, whatever. But when you tell me that definition does not exist or it's wrong, because they do that, then you're out to lunch, right? When you say a philosophical definition is wrong merely because you hold to a weaker definition called a sensu lato, and I hold to sensu stricto, I think you've jumped the shark, right? I mean, you're just, that's what a creationist would say. And I've said this before, this is what Matt Dillahunty on Twitter said I was wrong about. When people try to explain to him, no, Matt, what Steve's argument is, if you do this, it's not much difference than a creationist going, hey, theory is stipulate, or just an educated guess, or theory is just, speculation. And he's trying to say that's not the same thing. Well, I disagree. I think it is very much the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And do you think, here's what I'm thinking now, I just started thinking about this. In the United States, so we have about 3% of people call themselves atheists when they do those surveys with Pew polls, and about 4% of people call themselves agnostics. And so do you think one other potential reason for doing what Matt's doing is to try to get his group to be bigger, to sound bigger?
Well, yeah, and that's why I had Dave on this morning to talk about that very thing. These were political motivations. I've talked to Pam Whistler, the editor-in-chief of American Atheist. She is very clear this is politically motivated. She says, Steve, tell people American Atheist is not a philosophical organization. We're not people to look to for philosophical usages. We have an agenda. We are a political organization to normalize atheism and to get membership. These are her words. I mean, slightly paraphrasing, of course. I don't remember verbatim, but that's 90% of it. If you don't believe me, go ask her, right? I mean, I have no reason to make this up.
Yeah, because I think they also, some people I've talked to have also tried to clump in the people who are what they call religious nuns. So if they don't affiliate with a church, it means therefore they must be in the same group.
Right. But here's the thing, like, I am not in the same group as some of my friends who are, philosophical atheists, right? And when I say philosophical atheist, that's used in the literature to mean strong atheist, right? So if you look and you see philosophical atheist, usually they're talking about a strong case condition. And so why do I want to be labeled something that doesn't accurately describe my position that somebody else actually holds that position? If person X, like I'll use my friend Seth, because I was talking to him last night. He believes there are no gods, straight up believes there are no gods. So why would somebody want to label themselves with the same position of that when that's not the position that they hold? It seems to be confusing. It seems to be lack of nuance. Now, I'm not saying that they can't do it. I'm not prescribing they must use more stricter definitions. My argument has been for 3 or 4 years, these other definitions exist because they denied those existences for a long time. They're like, Steve's making this up. There's no other definition. This is what it is. It's one thing. And then I come along and other people have come along and we're like, look, here's Stanford, here's Oxford, here's Cambridge. Here's a paper by Burgess Jackson. Here's a paper by Malik. And by the way, yes, Malik is a PhD in chemistry, but he also wrote for a philosophical journal. He has a peer-reviewed paper in a philosophical journal. You have a genetic fallacy if you say, oh, well, yeah, but his PhD is in some unrelated field. So what? He could have a bachelor's degree. He could have no degree. It doesn't matter. If you're published in a peer-reviewed paper, you're published in a journal. You're published in a peer-reviewed journal. Who cares what his PhD is in? That's a genetic fallacy by definition. If you're saying, well, yeah, it's not his expertise. So what? It's been accepted as a peer-reviewed paper. See, but this is what I see happen by these, supposedly rational atheists out there.
See, I can see, I'm starting to understand why you're so, this is an issue that really fires you up. And I'm thinking, let me tell you why I think this is, because I have a comparable that fires me up that I think is pretty similar. One thing I can't stand is when people try to say that Christians and Christians and Muslims worship the same God.
Yeah, by the way, I'm on board with you on that.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
I do
They're like,
not
well, it's from the Mahadic, or what's it called? From the Abrahamic religions, and they're all the same. And I'm like, no, they aren't.
I mean, by lumping those groups together, you are losing the nuance of their individual positions, because a Jew, a Muslim, and a Arab, right? A Muslim, a Jew, and a Christian. Sure, they're an Abrahamic group. This is true, but the God that they describe, the God that they worship, is very different from each other. And so why would you want to lump them all together and say, well, no, they're all clearly worshiping the same God? Well, I don't think that's the case. There's nuances to be had there, but there are different versions of that one God. Would you agree?
Yeah, and exactly.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, even their doctrines are totally different. And in fact, the Muslim faith basically says there's a very vague passage about Jesus's crucifixion. And the Muslim faith basically says that God took Jesus prior to the crucifixion. So they didn't crucify Jesus. And that's, of course, the foundation of Christianity. So that's one reason why it drives me absolutely batty when people say that. And I've heard it a lot. It's not like this is a one-time thing that somebody proposed. People actually think that.
The reason why I get into atheists so much as I do, and I go after theists as well. I've gone after you. I mean, I called you out for a logical fallacy the other day, right? I mean, straight up. Hey,
yeah, I don't think it's a logical fallacy. I can do a simplified version.
Affirming the consequent is always a logical fallacy, SJ.
So
I'm telling you this. Well,
let me rephrase it. I'll rephrase that.
Don't, because I'm going to save you some embarrassment. Trust me on this. Affirming the consequent is always a logical fallacy.
I understand, period. But see, the premise you disagreed with. But I would say, even if I changed it to just be this, if objective morality exists, wait, let me figure out how to say that.
You might want to write it down.
Yeah, I better think about it. We'll go back to
one of the best defeaters to an argument, a syllogism, is if it's not logically valid, right? If it's not logically valid, you're done. It's game over. But if it's logically valid, then you go if it's sound. For example, I get into, I get after atheists that say that I'm wrong in my logic. Then I'll ask them a very simple question. And if they don't answer correctly, I'm like, then I don't think you understand the topic, right? It's not supposed to be a sharpshooting. What it is a basic litmus test. But if I say to you, SJ, if the moon is made of green cheese, then I am a moose. The moon is made of green cheese.
Yeah.
Therefore, I am a moose. Is that logically valid?
Well, see, I would go with that's not logically valid, obviously.
But it is.
If the moon is made of green cheese, you're a moose. That the premise is false.
It doesn't matter. Validity goes to structure. Validity goes to the structure of the argument, which in this case is P implies Q, P therefore Q, and this is called a rule of inference called modus ponens. It is always, always, always logically valid. Now, there's some considerations for what's called truth preserving, but that's a really technical argument. But the rule itself is a valid rule of inference. The premises don't have to be true to be valid. The premises have to be true to be sound. And in soundness, the premises have to be true and it has to be valid.
I'll go with that distinction.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a very important thing to understand when you're dealing with logic. So when people say like the kalam is invalid, they don't mean, it shouldn't mean that what they're saying on that, because the kalam is a valid argument. It is, you know, everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore has a cause. This is a proper structure. The inference is correct. You could argue the premises are not, right? And I don't think the premises are true either. But if something is logically valid and you're talking to a theist and you're saying, oh, that's not valid, and the theist knows logic, they're going to go, dude, I'm not going to have a conversation with this guy. He doesn't even know basic logic, right? And so as a non-believer, I get on atheists a little bit harder because I don't want them to, as a tribe, this is a tribe thing, I admit, I don't want to make them to make non-believers look bad, right?
Yeah, no, and that's so if you say that, because one of the ways I was trying to include, now that you just reminded me of something that I was doing one time when I was when I would run polls and stuff on Twitter, and I would try to include people like you as say the counter argument on one side. So I have Christian, then non-Christian or something like that, or Christian or non-believer. So you would probably prefer that I'd say Christian and non-Christian to capture people like you.
That's fine. I'm a non-Christian. I'm a non-believer. Sure.
Yeah.
That's a logical dichotomy, right? Christian, not Christian. Always good to go with those things, right?
Yeah.
But that goes back to my gumballs thing, right? Because people always say, well, Steve, you either believe or you don't believe. Well, yeah, nobody's arguing otherwise. Anybody who says that to me, they don't understand the argument, I think, because I look at them with incredulity. I'm like, why are you pointing out this to me? Like, I don't understand this. I mean, if people want to come after me, great. But when they think that I don't understand a topic that I've been doing for half a decade now, that I've had the top philosophers in the world on and discussed with, like Graham Oppie, right? I mean, it's pretty, I guess, disingenuous to try to make it out to be like, oh, Steve doesn't understand this. Well, if that's the case, I think I'd have a lot more people that I know going, Steve's an idiot in this. They're not saying this, right? I mean, we know a lot of the same PhDs in these fields, and none of them are saying that, right? I mean, I think that they would, because I have made mistakes before. And you know what happens when I do? I get a little message in the middle of the night. Hey, Steve, we got to talk. Right? I mean, you know how embarrassing it is at 4 o'clock in the morning when you get a message from Alex Malpass going, I think you screwed the pooch, you know. But it happens, and then what you do is you correct it, right?
And that reminds me of something. Your whole thing with these in the middle of the night, because I've noticed sometimes that you have very strange sleep schedule. I think I saw yesterday that you were going to go to bed at like 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I have my circadian rhythm has always been off ever since I was a kid. I have sleep paralysis. I have, I might even have sleep apnea. I don't know. But I mean, I don't sleep very well, but I will get into cycles where I'll have a normative sleep pattern and then it'll slowly like change. My dad had the same thing. My daughter has the same thing. Matter of fact, she just complained to me about this. Yeah. She's like, her mom's saying, look, you've got to go to bed at 8 o'clock. And my daughter's like, look, we're out of school. I'm not tired. What's the problem here? You know? And I agree with her. Let her stay up a little bit longer. Who gives, let her sleep in if she wants to sleep in at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock for a couple times. I get why she does it. Right. And so, I think it's a genetic thing. I really do. But yeah, people complain about that too. Like, Steve's up at all hours. Well, so what? I mean, I talk to people all over the world. By the way, time zones are a thing. Earth is not flat. Surprise, surprise. So why would it matter what times I'm up?
Yeah, no, I don't think it matters as far as you, because you can, you know, your schedule's whatever you want it to be. And so if you want to if you want to be a night owl, then be a night owl. So,
Yeah.
but my kids have been taking some flexibility on that too, with staying up a lot later. And I think they get that from my husband, because he's a nocturnal pretty much. So, and I'm a daytime person. So we're kind
Yeah.
of, right now it's been kind of weird.
But people use those things against any, like when they can't assail the argument, they use personal attacks. It's things about you. Oh, Steve, you know, Steve doesn't have a normal sleeping pattern. Steve doesn't have a normal job per se. Steve, you know, lives in a small room. What I mean, it doesn't really matter what the personal attack is. Go for it. But none of those things show that I'm wrong on anything. If you think I'm wrong, just show me the logic. That's all I'm asking for. Show me a coherent argument at least. Nobody ever has. Not one person has shown me. In fact, I post my stuff in a group, and you know what they do? I don't like your tone. I'm like, you don't like my tone? I'm like, I'm asking you, go ahead, critique this. Oh, well, okay, you're wrong because of this. Okay, well, wait, that wasn't in there. Oh, I didn't read it. This literally has happened to me.
No, I know. I know. And I made a video not too long ago to defend you. And I'm trying to remember what that was on. Was it Matt Powell that was going up against you?
Yeah. Because I mean, we all know what a great human being he is, right? Because when he makes an attack video about me, gotta be the truth, right? I mean, he would never lie about anything, would he, SJ?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely misrepresented you for sure. And I also, but other people have been making videos about you too. And it's over the
every day.
Yeah, what is with these?
They love my name, which is kind of weird too, because if my name gets them 60, 70, 100 views, they could probably use somebody else's name and get 10 times that. I don't know what the power is of my name, but they'll be like, hey, let's play Minecraft, Steve Exposed. It's just comical. I mean, I have a steadfast rule. And look, if you don't want to believe me, go ask Bullinator. Bullinator is one of the most honest people I've ever in my life. The motherfucker doesn't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't curse on your channel. I know you don't prefer this, but he doesn't lie. Right? He's like, yeah, whatever.
So let's play Minecraft.
Yeah. Let's play Minecraft.
Steve just got destroyed.
but Bullinator is one of the most honest people I've ever met in my life. Right? He will tell you that I do not watch videos of people that I've blocked. I have made certain exceptions for specific reasons, but when I do, I even let Bullinator and Cheshire know, yeah, I watched about 10 minutes of that video. Why? Because I don't want to be called a liar, right? I very much pride myself. When I say something, it is the case. I don't watch these videos. And so I just hear them secondhand, or if somebody else watches their video review, then I will, right? I just don't go to their channel to watch it.
Yeah. So, I have a hard time. I have to admit, it's like you, like when I go in, I did a couple of debates. I did one with Skylar Fiction not too long ago, and one with Jim Majors, and then one with Tom Jump. And so I have these videos, and Skylar was coming out with his response videos, and he would dress me up in just ridiculous ways and totally slam me in the response video. So I watched the beginning of one of them, and I decided to myself, I'm not watching any more of his stuff. I don't know why I even did that.
I don't either.
Yeah, you don't watch Scott? Oh yeah, you and Skylar had it out too.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with him in years. And I actually helped him too. I actually helped him at one time when he lost his channel. He turned on me, and I have no idea why, and I don't care. But whatever. I mean, go with God. Whatever. I mean, right now it seems to be, if you want to get ahead, if you want to like virtue signal to people, just try to kick Steve. Right? Throw something out there about Steve, some falsities, some bullshit about whatever who he had on his channel or something. Talk shit about him. Hey, become popular, even though it doesn't get them very far. There's only so much virtue signaling you can do if you have crappy content, right? Sure, that'll probably get you on the first rung for a certain group of people that I don't have anything to do with. But after that, you've got to have something. But I have people literally every day use my name for a video, and they'll get, I don't know, like 60 views. And I'm like, what? I'll see it come up, right? I'm like, I don't know. And the only reason it comes up, like I guess, if other people watch my stuff and their stuff, for some reason, the algorithm suggest it to you, I guess. It's weird, but I'm like, what the hell has this got to do with anything?
Yeah. I know that's the funny thing is see, you know what they do with you, and they do. Some people do it with me too. I'll have to say, there's it's like a common enemy thread that weaves them together, and so they feel like they can get some upvotes with their group if they have this common enemy. And you, unfortunately, have been a common enemy for a bunch of people.
Yeah, well, I've been around a long time. I mean, my channel's been on 8 years, right? I mean,
wow.
I've dealt with a whole bunch of different people, and there was a group of people that myself, Bullinator, and Reds left years ago, and they they've been butthurt ever since about it, and they're allowed to. I don't give a crap. Let them be butthurt. And they want to use my name, and they want to do right in my coattails till hell freezes over in perpetuity. Okay, it doesn't affect me because I still have people in my life that I love and that I care, and that's what I matters to me, right? The people that are in my close inner circle that I are real life friends, I don't care about what the other people have to say. I care about what my real life friends have to say, and they have hurt my real life friends, and because of that, I will not be around those people, and I haven't been for years because of that. Because of what they've done with me so much, but what they've done to people I care about, sending them threats, sending their families threats, making videos about them and lying. It's just, why would I want that toxicity around? Right?
Yeah, no, you have two female friends, the one who's on your channel, Lot Cheshire, and the other one, Sweet Heathen.
Sweet Heathen, right.
And didn't somebody slam, I think, Sweet Heathen, if I'm not mistaken, from you.
Yeah, there was a problem with that. And, I did what I had to do because, I mean, I made everybody clear, Sweet Heathen is one of my primary considerations, right? I mean, I love her. I see her every 3 months or so. We go on vacation together. I care about her immensely, and nobody is going to dishonestly say stuff and not respect her wishes and be around me, right? If I have to side between her and somebody else, that somebody else is going to get the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it makes sense. You gotta, and so you feel like you're kind of defending her in a way if someone's doing something like that, and I think that's what good friends do. So
yeah, I do too. And some people say it's white knighting. It's not. If I think she's in the wrong, I'm going to tell her straight up. I mean, we don't have to agree on everything. I don't really
have a problem with white knights, actually.
I don't really either, but that's not really what I am. If I have to stay, I have to have a cause. I have to actually believe the person's in the right to stand up for them. But she was in the right. Sweet Heathen was clearly in the right. She felt like this particular case was somebody who had possibly violent tendencies. She knows him in real life, and she didn't want to be around somebody that could be potentially harmful and dangerous because she is the victim of assault.
Oh, wow.
And so I don't blame her for that.
Yeah. Right? No, I don't blame her.
Yeah. But anyways, a little bit back on topic here. So long story short, Steph, I want people to read the blog on the Gumballs and God. I want people to ask me questions. If anybody thinks they have a good argument, all they got to do is give it to me, right? I mean, that's all I've ever asked. Show me your evidence of what you think that from now on, what I'm gonna do is this. I'm having another debate on Modern Day Debate with Snake, part 2, because a lot of people said, well, Steve's wrong because reasons, but Snake never told me what I was wrong. And so I'm gonna give him all the time in the world. But what he has to do is first, he has to tell me what my claim actually is and then disprove it, because I don't think he understands what my positions are. So why have a debate with somebody if they don't even know what my positions are?
Yeah. And I'll go back to the reasoning why these people are doing this, and you agreed to it. So I think that needs to be pointed out in case somebody just joined. One reason that people say, like, for example, they have a lack of theist belief is because they are trying to shift the burden in sometimes, or sometimes when people are trying to do, this is a problem that Steve is bugged by, when they try to group a bunch of people with disparate opinions together just because of political reasons. So they might say, okay, all the agnostics and atheists, really, it's pretty much one group of similar minded people, and it's not. They're actually two distinct groups, and that's why there's two distinct classifications from the Pew Research, for example. And so they might say, we want to increase the size of this group. In Europe, actually, if you combine all the agnostics and the atheists, you got a pretty substantial group in a lot of different countries.
And that's what they want it for demographics, right? But I'm not the same position as an atheist, so why would I take that? I'm not an atheist activist. I'm not promoting for political activism. Although I agree with some of the things that they do, right? I want secularism. I want separation of church and state. And a lot of theists I know want separation of church and state. Why? Because if there's not a separation of church and state, the religion that they don't accept might be the dominant one, which is a problem, right? I mean, would you be happy if Judaism became the popular religion? Probably not, right?
Well, Judaism wouldn't be the one I'd go. I mean, that wouldn't. It'd be the Muslim faith.
Judaism's pretty cool. Yeah, the food would be great.
But I'd be really concerned about the Muslim faith.
How about Islam? Okay,
yeah, thing. Just because of Sharia law, and I don't want to have to wear a burqa.
I don't blame you. Right? I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah. But, so that wouldn't work out for me. So so I think we're on the same page as far as we think that people should let people be what they want to be. If they want to say they're agnostic, and that doesn't mean that they're saying they're atheist. And so I think that's.
But isn't that prescriptive when they do that? When they force me to try to use their usages That is a type of prescriptive behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now it's not true prescriptivism in the sense of linguistics, because again, prescriptivism in a linguistic means that you're holding to grammatical norms, right? You're saying language must be held to certain rules in the English language, which I think are absurd. I think language is malleable. I think it's dynamic. I think it's what's called in synchronic usages. I think it is changes. I don't think that we should have, especially in writing, right? Do you want a writer that has very strict formal rules? No, you want a writer that has some creativity. When they violate a grammatical rule, they're probably doing it for a reason, right? They're trying to have like a point. So you don't want to have these strict, you must not dangle your participle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have gone away from this. From decades ago, it's very strict. Now it's no, it's not. But when you're telling me that I have to accept their usages, you're prescribing that to me. When my argument has never been, they have to use my usages. People have lied about that and said, Steve's forcing people to use his usages. And look, he's telling certain atheists are not atheists or actually agnostics. That's never happened.
So let me ask you this, and this is a kind of a related topic, but it reminds me of what you're saying is reminding me of what made Jordan Peterson so famous. And one of the things that got him really famous is this idea that he came out against having to a compelled speech on gender pronouns and these she and G and different kind of pronouns besides him and her and she and he. And so, because in Canada, you can compel people to speech. And so he had a big article about that. And so I'm wondering what you think about that. Do you think that people should be able to compel people to use particular pronouns?
No,
of their
but
choices?
I think Jordan misrepresented the argument. If you read the bill, that wasn't what they were saying. And I think he used it for his own personal agenda, whatever it was, because I think he definitely did misrepresent. They wouldn't misrepresent. Nobody was forcing anybody to use specific terminology. Now, if he didn't say that, if he just say, look, I don't want to use these weird Z's, okay, great. I don't either, right? Him and I would have been on the same page. But I think he was actively misleading people by saying that the HR bill in Canada was saying you must do this or face certain kind of sanctions or penalties. That's not the way the law was written, from what I understand. Right.
Yeah, well, I actually I haven't read that law, so I don't know exactly how it was written, but I agreed with Jordan too, though, as far as using these different, because I can't even learn as many. I guess Facebook basically has something like 60 classifications.
That's ridiculous.
I can't keep up with that.
Yeah.
So and usually actually, I don't even think that people in those camps, I don't even think they're really compelling that speech so much. I think they would prefer just to say, just like the guy or the girl, I should say, that you and I communicated with on Twitter yesterday, Chrissy. Chrissy wants to be called Chrissy now, and she.
Yeah, and that's like, fine.
Okay.
I've called her for she told me, I don't know, it has been several months that she goes by she now, and I have ever since. Right, once you tell me, sure. I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. But she also made a blog post that I talked about this morning with David Silverman. Like, why she removed it, by the way? But I'm like, why are we on this list?
What was it? Oh, wait a second. I think I saw that.
Yeah.
You were on the list.
Yeah, it was a list of names of people that were atheist and bigoted, and yet I'm not an atheist, and I'm certainly not bigoted. Neither are the people on there. The people on there were like Sam Harrison, Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss, Holy Kool-Aid,
really?
Jacqueline Glenn, even Mr. Atheist was on there, and I'm no fan of Mr. Atheist, as people know, but to label him a bigot, I don't know. That just seems odd to me. Now, maybe from a religious point of view, he's very hostile toward religion, but it's not a term I would ascribe to him, right?
Yeah,
and yet I'm on this list of atheist bigots, and I'm like, what the hell am I bigoted about?
Well, number one, you're not an atheist.
I'm not an atheist, so I don't know.
Nor are you a bigot. And actually,
weird.
You know, that's coming from somebody. Basically, you've agreed to use the terminology he wants to use about him. I'm sorry, I get messed up with that. But that Chris wants to use about Chris or Chrissy, and so then you agreed to that, and so for him to call you that, gosh, I keep.
It's hard because you know somebody for so long, and when they change it, your brain has to
that's the thing. I've had Chrissy on my channel lots of times, and so I do stumble a little bit with that. That's kind of tough.
Most honest people recognize that, and they just will say, no, it's this, and that's fine. I mean, like I said, I'm used to calling her now because once she told me that, then that's fine. But even her blog, what's funny, she refers to herself in the blog. I think he's in one case used the male pronoun, which well, because she's always gone by being fluid gender, right? So fluid gender can use either, but now she's strictly to the feminine, which again, people can do this. I have no problem with people deciding for themselves and changing, but you got to expect other people to know every time they do, right? It's like a little confusing.
Yeah, it's a little tricky because you're trying to you've known somebody for a long time in a certain way, and then suddenly, because I've again on my channel before, so I've had Chrissy on my channel, so Chrissy has also been busy writing stuff bad about me, so I can relate to you.
It's a shame too. I mean, like, look, I will call you out, and I disagree with you in public often. I mean, I will to basically dump off of some of your arguments on ontology and morality and whatever, but we do so respectfully. You don't have to agree with somebody to have a conversation with them, as long as it's an honest conversation. I don't think you're dishonest on purpose, right? I know other people have accused you of that. I know you well enough, so I think you actually do believe what you believe. That's the kind of person I want to have a discussion with. They arbitrarily say, look, SJ is just being dishonest. I don't think that's the case, right?
No, I have no reason to be dishonest. Yeah. Why would I go on Twitter and get the abuse heaped on me if I mean, I could easily get off Twitter and say,
now that doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with you. I mean, I still think you're wrong, but I'm giving you some principle of charity, which I preach principle of charity. Look, if you think somebody is just being just deliberately deceptive, that's one thing. But if you think somebody is just wrong and not intellectually, having a decent conversation, that's a completely different discussion, right? I don't think that you're like that. And I know other people accuse you of it. If I'm wrong on that, then I'm naive and I'll sure, whatever. But even if that's the case, even if you were being deliberately dishonest, no, I still want to have a discussion with you than somebody like Pat Towel, right?
Well, yeah, Pat Towel had his whole idea was that you should humanely kill all of the gay people.
Right. At that point, conversation's done, right? I mean, if you start espousing stuff like that, yeah, bye-bye. Right? I mean, that to me is just morally reprehensible to a degree that I cannot ever be around. I mean, that certain things are beyond the pale, right? And calling for the execution of gays, you're done. You're just done. I mean, bye-bye. I'm not going to bother with any of that stuff, any of those people.
I want to respond to Daniel here. It says, I think SJ does tend to run from people like Dr. Josh and then continue to talk about the topic with others in her own videos. That is dishonest. Now, I can tell you, I don't run from Dr. Josh. In fact, he's one of the people I actually interact with on Twitter quite frequently. I ignore a lot of people on Twitter. Actually, I ignore a ton of people on Twitter, but I don't ignore Dr. Josh because I think he's been pretty decent towards me.
He's not, Dr. Josh is straight up. I mean, he's extremely knowledgeable. If anything, he's probably more humble than he probably should be because he downplays his knowledge a lot. When I know that he's extremely well read. But he's innocuous. I mean, he's not somebody that anybody should be afraid of, right? I mean, he's not going to be down and browbeat you with knowledge. He's going to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, right? So I wouldn't run from a conversation with him at all. Okay, so I just want to clarify.
I wouldn't either, but I don't know what we disagree on because I'm not.
Yeah, I totally disagree with Dr. Josh on a lot of things, but I agree that I think he's been pretty decent towards me, so I have no problem with the guy.
Which is what I'm trying to foster. I want to have people have polite conversations when they disagree, because disagreement is what we're about, right? Who wants to have an echo chamber of everybody that agrees with you? I'd be bored out of my mind.
Yeah, it does make it more interesting.
My co-host doesn't agree with me on a lot of stuff. Do you know why she's my co-host? Because she doesn't agree with me on a lot of stuff. If I wanted somebody who agreed with me on everything, I would get my mom,
yeah, that's funny.
And even she doesn't agree with me on stuff. She's like, sees this hair, be gone. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's why one of the reasons why I like to have different people and differing views on my channel is because I've got you now, you're an agnostic. Yesterday I had 2 Christians. Before that I had another guy who was, I can't remember if he's atheist or agnostic, but I had another person like that. And so I'm willing to talk to a lot of people. Unless the person comes in and is really rude. And I've unfortunately dealt with that too. So
I've never been rude to you.
No, you haven't.
And I'm like, and by the way, the people that have seen me interact with you and other people, these are the people like Reasons to Believe that have offered me a co-host position with Dr. Fuzz Rana from Reasons to Believe, right? I mean, Dr. P. Russ likes my videos. He thinks that I am the interlocutor that Reasons to Believe goes and talks to. I'm the quintessential person, the non-believer that they are reaching out to. Now, they've never tried to proselytize to me, which is God honest truth. They have not tried to sway me and preach the gospel to me, because I've said up front, look, that's not what I'm here for. I'll have conversations and we'll, agree to argue on different things, right? But they get that and they respect that. They think that I have one of the most intellectually honest channels on the internet. So we are doing a full show in studio in West Covina, Fullerton area, bi-monthly, twice a month, as soon as this Covina stuff's over. We're going to do it remotely at the beginning, but they're designing a whole set. And that's because they do take what I say seriously. They do take my arguments seriously. Unlike, going back to the full circle, Matt Dillahunty, who just says I'm wrong by fiat, but has not yet to demonstrate why I'm incorrect in anything that I've said.
And they don't put Matt Dillahunty on the channel. I love Reasons to Believe. I just want to plug them real quick since you did. I love Reasons to Believe, and I've had Hugh Ross on my channel a couple of times.
Really nice guy.
Fuzzrana. They're so nice. And actually, one of the places I saw Hugh Ross for one of the first times was actually on the Non Sequitur show. He debated somebody, and he did a really good job.
Right. Yeah. And look, I don't agree with Hugh. Right. I straight up don't agree with you. I have his book Improbable Planet. They gave me all kinds of books, right? They did give me the free books because they want me to be familiar with the RTV. Improbable Planet is a decent book from a science point of view. If you want to read like the first, I would say 80 to 90% of it, it's just science stuff. I mean, he makes a pretty good argument from science, but then he puts it into the theological realm, right? Which again, I don't make that argument. So I disagree with his conclusions. But when you talk about objective science, he's not like a younger creationist that says, look, stars, were formed 6,000 years ago. No. I mean, he talks about actual astrophysics because that's something he actually has an actual PhD in, right? So his science, people have vetted that, and actual astrophysicists haven't really come out and say, look, Hugh Ross on astrophysics is, wrong, but they'll argue, hey, that doesn't imply, a creator, right? His conclusions may be faulty, but
So
I want to bring Vekl in here. You're more than welcome to, because I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, I got Vekl and Craig Reed, Cameron Gilchrist, Nathan. Nathan says we had the same shirt on. Kim Omaki.
Bring Vekl, Craig Reed if they want to come in. By the way, Craig Reed, really liking your channel lately. I like your rants. I'll give the same advice though that people are giving me, and it's good advice. We got to both slow down.
You guys want to come in here? You guys can let me know. Vekl and Craig, if you want to come in here, I can link you up. So
Craig and I both have a problem when we go on a rant. It's like, don't try to stop us. It's a locomotive of verbosity.
Craig's rants crack me up. You guys have to subscribe also. Besides subscribing to Steve's channel, which I'll put the link in if I haven't yet, go ahead and definitely subscribe to Craig's and Vekl's channels. Those two are both Christians too, and their stuff. I've been listening to Craig's rants too.
Yeah. Good stuff, Craig. I mean,
he's like, how not to get into a Twitter battle.
Well, I mean, Craig calls it like he sees it. Now, again, do I have to agree with him on everything? No, but he has some objective evaluations where I said, yeah, I think you're right, Craig. Thank you.
Well, he's actually also, so Craig, I'm gonna say out here, you guys, if you want to get in here, just let me know. So I'll be watching the chat here so I can switch screens and send a link out if you do.
Yeah. And also, like I said, I know we only planned for an hour and we're going a little bit over, which is fine. We can go a few more, but if people have questions, I'm happy to answer questions. I'll never run from questions. There are certain people I will never talk to ever again. They're so morally reprehensible to me that I'm not going to lower myself to talk to people that have actively harmed me or my friends, or have actively gone out of the way to lie. Those people are not in my circles that I'll talk to. But however, if they have an argument that they think is good, anybody can run it. Arguments stand on their own accord. So
it'd be interesting.
Wants to run an argument, that's fine.
I wonder if you and I have some of the same people that you don't want to talk to anymore, that I also decided that I don't want to talk to anymore. I wonder if some of those people are.
I'll tell you what, when we're done with this, I'll hang around and we can compare notes.
So there's a little group of people, that definitely I'm common enemy number one, and you might be in that same. You might be the common enemy.
I'm so harmless too. I don't get it. I'm like, look,
I think you're harmless too.
Here's my arguments. If you can assail them, great. If not, then why sit there and spend years of your life trying to character assassinate me? It hasn't really worked out too well for them. I still have a pretty substantial core following. The people that have not followed, the people, my subs that have left were never my core group. My videos are still watched. I'm still going to be, with Reasons to Believe. I still have an amazing enhanced friends, like Sweet Heathen, I couldn't be happier. I mean, so if they want to spend their years of their life character assassinating me, why is it affecting it? It's people are recognizing it. I've said it for years. This is what they do when they can't steal the arguments, and all they've done is prove my point. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Nathan Orman wants to know, when are you going to repent and believe?
I was a believer at one time.
Yeah, didn't you say you came from the Mormon faith?
Yeah, yeah. I baptized when I was 17. Now I went to some, like, on and off. I went to some Christian youth groups, right, in high school. Not that I was a big believer. They would have a band, right? They have that Christian band, and you're like, hey, girls are pretty. But I never felt comfortable there. I was always like, hey, I don't believe in this. It's not my shtick. It never felt it, right? And I think a lot of people there, I was like, I guess Thomas Henry Huxley, I was like, these people, I think, are overplaying their justification, right? For why they hold a belief. Even though I didn't recognize these terms back then, right? I didn't understand epistemology like I do now, but still I understood that, hey, I think these people are not really warranted to make these claims to me, because why are they having these beliefs? What is this that makes them the case? What do they know that I don't know? And I never really got great answers from them. It's not like they say, look, I have communication with Jesus. He came down, he stood in front of me. I talked to him daily, and I'm like, okay, can you ask Jesus about the Riemann hypothesis? Oh, sure. That's never happened, right? If somebody could do that to me, if I say, look, Jesus knows everything, ask Jesus, some mathematical proof that has not been solved yet. And if you can do it, I'm probably going to have a little more credulity, right? But we all know that's not going to happen.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, the creator of the universe, I'm certainly is quite capable, and of all of our constants and logical laws, I'm sure is capable of coming up with that, solving any problem that we could create in our little teeny minds.
Yeah.
But actually, somebody, Brenda wants to know who those people are, if they're Skylar and Drag.
It doesn't really matter who they are. I mean, it's irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, here's the thing. There are people that I just don't want to be around. I stopped talking to them years ago. And if they want to talk about me for the rest of their lives, okay. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah, that's probably the same kind of people. Plus, I don't want to throw them a bone by naming the people. I'm Skylar. Or not Skylar. I mean, dude, did I name one of them?
Whatever. I don't care if somebody, it's just like, whoever is, look, I'm talking about 20, 30 people here. Okay. So it's just people that I just don't want to be around. They're, to me, very toxic, very, very harmful people. If they want to go do their shtick and talk about me every video, okay, great. Hey.
Oh, it looks like Craig and Vekl are going to come in here.
Yeah,
so Vekl, I just sent you the link, and hold on, let me just send Craig the link too. Hold on.
If I can understand Craig, if you talk, usually I put him on like half speed. By the way, have you ever put Craig Reed on 2 speed? It's like that Star Trek episode where everybody's like sped up. You're like,
Craig is hilarious. Actually, they're both very funny. I'm trying to get the thing so I can send Craig on Twitter, and we'll see when Vekl joins us too. So did you watch Vekl was actually, both of those two were just in debates recently. Did you see either of their debates?
No. What Vekl was in a debate? What was Vekl debating on?
Yeah, Vekl debated, both of them debated Skylar fiction, and Craig also had Dry Apologist in there, and he also debated Dr. Josh.
What was the topic?
Oh, I forget. Yeah, I just sent the link to Craig. What was the topic? Well, I think I want to say morality with Vekl, but when he gets on here, I'll see what that is.
Yeah, that's actually when we asked a question the other day. What would you ask a Christian? What would you ask a non-believer? And both of them had, well, a lot of the questions for both those were dealing with morality, right? Well, how do you know morality from God? How do you have morality as a non-believer? And I think that's going to be a question we're definitely going to be talking about on the show that we're doing with Reasons to Believe, because I wanted to talk about from a non-believer's point of view, how we formulate moral beliefs, right? How do we formulate a moral framework? There's some fascinating stuff about how we go about doing this. There's been studies on this based upon, given a dilemma, how do you resolve this dilemma? And it's not what your conclusion is. Matter of fact, it's one of them is called the Heinz dilemma, but they don't care what the conclusion is. What they care about is how you went about forming that conclusion. And I think that's more important in a moral framework. How do you go about believing what you believe? Not your end result, right? So the belief itself isn't as important as the mechanisms by which you use to formulate that.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig.
Hey guys,
Hey, you
can you hear
guys.
me? Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you guys hear me?
Cool.
we can.
What's
the other
going
person?
on?
Hey,
How you
Vekl, been a
doing?
while, man.
I know it has been.
Yeah. You know, you just been coming around, Vekl. Anthony Fletcher
Anthony Fletcher.
and Antonio Fletcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He actually came into my rum and coke night. I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I think he wants to get back into YouTube a little bit, and we had a really nice discussion. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. I mean, because again, I never really had anything against Fletcher. It's just
Yeah, he slowly, peeps in and out every once in a while. He's not on as much as he used to.
yeah, I think he wants to though.
Yeah. We definitely want him to get back in. So, but yeah, man. So it's good to. I just popped in, so I don't know what's the topic mainly about.
We were talking a lot about Steve's, or I should say Matt Dillahunty's misclassification of atheists and agnostics, where he says that if you're an agnostic, you're also classified as an atheist. And so Steve has been laying out his philosophy on why that's incorrect. And Steve created a blog that I'm going to put in the channel too.
Well, let's clarify here. From his perspective, it's quote not incorrect because he's using terminology differently. But when he prescribes it, when he says, look, this is the only way it is, you must be this, then it's wrong, right? Because clearly that's not the case. And so he also ignores the fact that what's normative, right? I mean, if you look in the academic literature, which he seems to not give a crap about, he does for science, I guess, but philosophy, whatever. Everything I've said is normative. I mean, if you go take a science course, you learn certain things. You take a philosophy course, you learn certain things. I guarantee it. If anybody wants to go take these courses, they're not going to be listening to Matt Dillahunty on philosophy. They're going to be listening to myself, Ozzy, Malpass, and I'm not trying to put myself on their level. This is not that. But there's certain things that are just subjective, right? If I say in philosophy, a position is like solipsism. If I say solipsism is a position that other external minds don't exist, who's going to disagree with that, right? That's what it is, right? But if Matt Dillahunty wants to say, well, no, solipsism is the position of, you believe of that modal realism, right? You think that possible worlds exist. I'm going to be like, well, no, that's not what solipsism is in philosophy. But if you want to call it that, knock yourself out. But that's not normative. That's been my argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Vekl, you've known me, what, 5 years now? Have I not been consistent on that? Have I varied in any way, shape, or form in 5 years on this?
Yeah, I haven't really followed you that much,
yes.
but you seem to be pretty consistent from what I've gathered. So
I pay you for it, man.
Yeah, I
You're the lousiest minion I've ever seen in my life.
I know. So I'm still waiting for my check. So
yeah, well, okay. Here's the thing. You're going to get a check for $1,200. It's going to be stimulus and has Trump on it, but that's actually my name too. So.
I'm supposed to get mine on the 30th. I'm pretty pumped about
Mine's
that.
next month. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Well, I mean,
scheduled it.
well, Steve, it's good to see that you're doing well.
Very well, actually.
I don't want to bring up old drama, man, but I was actually kind of vexed when I heard about that situation with you and the other show you used to be on. So
yeah, I appreciate it, man.
I
mean,
I don't understand it at all. But
I don't either. Somebody threw away the golden goose, right? I mean, and not only is threw it away, but is looking at $100,000 in damages and possible jail time. Seems silly. You've been making lots of money a month and having a great show, or you can have $100,000 debt and looking at jail time. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it never will. Just absolutely, I will never be able to wrap my hand around that kind of bad decision making.
Had Vekl ever gone on your channel on Non Sequitur?
I don't know if he's on Non-Sec. Was he, Vekl? I know you were on my channel many times, but
I've been to your channel maybe once or twice, but not the Non Sequitur show.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've had you on my channel. Matter of fact, I remember back there, you and oh man, it was a great discussion with you and what was his name? Teacher of oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what your teacher of. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, that was a good discussion actually.
I forgot what we were talking about. What was
it was on Noah's Ark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think he probably did most of the talking there.
Yeah, because we got him to say that there was dinosaurs on the Ark.
Right.
I was like, okay, that's teacher truth. No, oh man, what was that?
Teacher of righteousness. Teacher of
somebody in the live chat will probably remember the guy.
Yeah.
Teachers.
Teacher.
His dad was also an apologist too. But anyways, hey Craig, want to get? Because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, I'm here. How much time do we have? I only got to watch a little bit of your debate with Snake. I commented on what I watched. And you made a follow-up video to Matt Dillahunty, right? Did you guys already talk about that?
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as far as I can tell from the stuff that what I pieced together, I pretty much think I agree with almost all of your argument. A lot of what happens is on the substance of the argument, you usually recognize that there's a colloquial definition, right? And you're saying that it's normative for philosophy, the definition that you are throwing out. That's my understanding. Am I getting that right?
Sure. I mean, I won't die on the hill, but I think people misunderstand colloquial. But it's okay. I mean, for arguendo, or I hate saying, why do I keep saying for arguendo? It's just arguendo.
For arguendo.
Yeah, for arguendo is redundant, right? Arguendo, sure. There's an understanding that some of these atheist groups use these terminologies, but then there's a normative usage in philosophy. If you want to go read these papers, they're going to be using it as the positive case 99% of the time, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I've always understood you to be saying. And then a lot of times they don't recognize that you're trying to force you to insist that they're right.
Right.
Whereas you're being more expensive than they are, and they're being dogmatic with you.
Yeah, they're being very dogmatic. I mean, look,
scarily so.
If the proposition is you must be theist or atheist, that proposition has to be false. It has to be false because clearly in philosophical usages, that's not the case. But 4 years ago, Craig, atheists were out there pounding people. No, there is no other usage. If you go to American Atheists, there is no other usage. I have Aaron saying there's only one correct usage of atheism. Somebody who doesn't believe in God. That's his words. There's only one correct definition.
Yes, that's what I always understood.
That's prescriptivism.
Now you said GM Skeptic acknowledged that there's a politics behind that. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, so GM Skeptic does not argue with me on these topics because he agrees my arguments are correct as far as philosophy. What he tries to do is he tries to run a utility argument, which by the way is not bad. I've never gone after him for it because if you're going to run an argument, you run a utility argument. I have no issue with that. Do I think
big tent atheism? If I
for political changing, if that's your goal, then I get it, right? Because your argument is then, hey, my goal is this, my telos is this. What do I need to do to get to that goal? And they'll say, well, by doing this, this, and this, and saying that atheist is this, I will help get to that goal.
Right.
Then the argument becomes, well, is that the best way to go about it? And I could argue against it. But on its face, it's not prima facie a bad argument, right? That's why you don't see me going after genetically modified skeptic for that very reason.
Because his argument makes logical sense, you would just be saying, I'm not sure if that's the best political decision in your long-term interest, but the logic of it is totally solid.
I think it's a short-term argument. I think that long-term it doesn't work out very well. But then again, these are subjective things, right? I at least recognize I have a subjective arguments based upon my opinion. But I also have objective arguments that are not opinion-based. If I say to you, Craig, A equals A, that's no subjectivity to be had on that.
Well, but that's part of the problem. When you have your logical argument that you're laying down, it's pretty much structurally intact, which means there's really no arguing with you. And people are
unless you're Matt Dillahunty, right? He just says I'm wrong by fiat. He says my logic is wrong by fiat, but he never demonstrates it ever. I'm gonna be on David Silverman's channel next month, and at least he's not willing to go after the logic. He's like, you know what? He's not qualified to even look at it, kind of thing. I respect that. Right? If Dave says, look, I'm not the person to even evaluate this. Great. But Matt doesn't do that. Matt says, you're just wrong, Steve.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably won't debate you either. I've never seen you and him.
I never asked him to. I've never asked Matt Dillahunty to debate ever. I've never gone after him to debate. I never wanted to. People have email. I have an email from somebody, I think two actually, that has said, hey, Matt and Steve, will you guys debate each other? And I respond first, no. And then he responded no. I mean, so I have no desire. Everybody says, well, you're just using Matt's name. Bull crap. I mean, if I want to use people's names, he's not the person I'm going to use. I know bigger names than Matt, right? I mean, for Pete's sake, I had David Silverman on today, who I actually get along with. Why? I don't understand that reasoning, right? I mean, if I want views, I'd be sucking up to Matt Dillahunty like some people do.
Well, I understand what they're doing. I mean, it's more the thing that's going on is that the logic of what you're saying is pretty much case closed.
Yeah,
And
I think
most
so.
why you get into so many arguments over it is that the logic is case closed, and the people who are attacking you don't understand the underlying logic.
Correct.
So they attack you for different reasons, and it's really hard. It's really fun to watch, by the way. For a period of time, I would watch you on Twitter. I would read every single argument you got in on Twitter for like 3 months running. And it was like, I had to stop. I had to like take you off of the list because I'd get sucked into watching you argue with someone. I'd spend like 2 hours watching you because you'd have like 5 guys, that'd be like.
Well, I'll give you an example, Craig. Did you watch the Alex Malpass, Vekl and Craig debate?
I saw part of that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that.
Long story short, they were talking about a very, very complex argument. Okay. And myself, I didn't fully understand what the hell they were talking about. But
Right.
You know what I did? I went
Ask.
to Malpass and I said, hey, dude, can you kind of break it down for me what the argument is actually about? Because I want to be able to explain it to people. He took the time because he's Malpass is one of the nice guys you want to meet. He took the time. He explained it to me. And I said, okay, look, I'm going to have to take some time to digest this. I'm going to need some days. I processed it. I worked around it and I wrote a blog on it. And would I say the blog's perfect? No, only because I should have added some other things to it. And I might go back and add to it, but I got the basics down. And I asked Malpass, is this the gist of it? He's like, yeah, you got the core part of it. And I asked Dr. Joss Rasmussen, who's a theist, right? Can you check this out? And he's like, yeah, I think you've got it right as well. And I asked MJ Dorowee, who's a master's degree in philosophy working on his PhD. He said, yeah, I think you. So I have people check it. Doesn't mean I am right, but I at least want to make sure when it comes to the logic,
you're understanding the core logic of what's being presented, and you're double checking that you're not going down a side route.
But it did take me several days to get that logic. It was very difficult logic to try to explain to somebody.
Well, Alex Malpass is first rate. As far as I can understand from just the outside, he's a first rate intellect. He's one of the sharpest tools in your shed.
Well, but he admitted, Alex admitted, hey, look, this is not a layperson's argument. We weren't there to just explain to people the argument. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get it. This is why I'm saying I'm a layperson. I want to be able to explain to people. Right. But it took me several days and I had to, do the logic and explain to people the modalities, and it's hard. Okay, hard.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that whole thing because I saw it up and I listened to a little teeny bit of it, but I didn't even hear the basic argument. So I'm gonna have to go back and.
When was this? Was this recent or was this? I don't even know.
Yeah, I saw it up on.
I didn't see it. I haven't checked it out.
Was it on Capturing Christianity's channel?
Yes, yeah, and only myself and MJ Dorowee were willing to actually discuss the actual argument because it's so complicated that I don't think a lot of people are going to spend the time to really get the chords down first, right? Because these are not easy. Remember back when, I think Vekl, you were around, obviously, remember Fodor's argument? People were talking about Fodor's argument against natural selection. Real big back in the day.
Yeah, vaguely. You have to give me more detail though.
Fodor's argument about natural selection is basically natural selection is non-explanatory because it can't decide between two intentional states of you have a coextensive property like the thump of the heart and pumping blood. They're both coextensional. Remember that argument? Sound familiar?
Yeah, vaguely. You know me, man. When it comes to the science issue, I usually just kind of like listen in and.
Fair enough. Well, that was a big argument back in the day, Fodor's argument. And by the way, Fodor was an atheist philosopher.
It does sound familiar though, yeah. Yeah.
And he also is an evolutionist, right? And his argument was based upon good philosophy. And I think there's an argument to be had there. But when people were running it to science people, like Arndt had no idea in the world what the hell this argument was. And he started throwing out weird defeaters for it that weren't defeaters, right? Because you have to actually learn this argument. It's nothing simple. And I don't think a lot of people want to do that. And so what I try to do is explain these arguments as simplistically as possible, but it takes time to learn them first,
Yeah, totally. Get down the core of the argument itself. Because a lot of times if people don't understand it, they'll be saying stupid things and they don't even know why. They don't even know why the thing they're saying is totally inappropriate.
Yeah, well, you see it with Dar's deity when he runs Hume's problem of induction, right? I mean, atheists will love to screw that one up. And well, induction works tomorrow because I saw it work yesterday, and DD craps all over them.
DD, I don't even think I know who DD is. Who's DD?
Dar's deity?
I don't think I know.
Oh, come on.
Did you ever debate?
Yeah, seriously?
Did you ever debate Darth Dawkins, Steve, like in life or behind on
Well, I
your
mean,
channel?
what do you mean by
Like
I
he
never had
showed
a
up
formal
on your
debate with
channel
him?
and tried to run his scam on
Oh
you.
yeah, I've had numerous conversations with Darth. I was on, matter of fact, Vekl probably remembers back when I Antonio Fletcher's channel. I've engaged him. MK, remember MK Vekl?
Yep.
Was I not on MK's channel multiple times? And did I not engage Darwin's?
Yeah.
And Nadia Vet's Chambers channel, did I not engage Darwin's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's going around telling people he's never had a conversation with me other than once on the Council for Google Plus, which
I'm
is
pretty
a
sure
bullface
you
lie.
guys had at least one conversation that I can remember seeing. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, we had it on Council Google Plus once too.
The council.
Matt Slick's group.
He was in Darth
Yeah.
Dawkins was in my channel chat yesterday, and he and Nathan kind of he and Nathan kind of had it out a little bit. So
MK,
Wow, that's pretty
please.
funny.
Yeah, MK, please.
We should set that up. Nathan, you should do that in real life.
Nathan versus Darth Dawkins.
Yeah, on either your channel, my
would
channel,
never
or Modern Day
happen.
Debate.
Yeah, I mean, I'd set it up, or if you want to set it up, we could definitely do that.
Oh,
And then Vekl versus Brenda.
Did you listen? Wait, did you listen to Darth Dawkins and T Jump go at it one time? Oh,
No,
Oh.
I actually went at it with Darth Dawkins.
the pain was real.
This is Steve. This is how Kyle found me in the first place. Is I went on Max. Remember, I don't know if you remember that guy, Max. What did he go by again? Max. Shoot, what was his last name? I forgot his name already. I can't believe. Oh, Max Colby. Remember the guy who called himself Max Colby?
Dean Esme. Yes, I know. I remember
So Max Colby told me to go onto Brett Keen's channel. So I go onto Brett Keen's channel and I'm confronted by Darth Dawkins. And Darth Dawkins is a very stern young earth creationist. And he was basically, he had some arguments and all of a sudden I kind of felt myself getting pushed into a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, his precept doesn't go very far when you know his chick, you know.
Well, then I've seen him. Actually, I was on another channel with him and he was being pretty pleasant on that channel, but the one with
How do you
Brett
know
Keane.
that? How do you know that?
So, well, I mean, he's more pleasant.
But
to me on that
you
channel.
know Saiten, right? Saiten Bernakit.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I don't have a
interviewed
problem
him.
with Saiten. We get along fantastic. I think he's fundamentally wrong, but doesn't mean I can't be, a friend to him. Because people ask me, how the hell can you be friends with somebody like Sai? Because Sai actually believes his stuff. He legit believes his stuff. He's not one of those people that just like Darwin's, who the hell knows what he believes. Sai actually believes it. And those are the conversations that I think are honest dialogues, even though people will say, well, he's not being intellectually honest. Well, this is true. I don't think that he is either. But from his perspective, he's consistent. And yes, I think there's a dissonance there, but I'd rather have somebody who I think is at least believes it and that you can have a discussion with is somebody like Darwin's, where do you honestly believe Darwin believes half the stuff he spews out? Who the hell knows, right? I think he just does it for the lulz.
Yeah, you do wonder if people are genuine. And I would say I've had Sai on my channel and the only thing with Sai that's kind of tough is I've noticed, like when I actually do go to his Twitter line, he actually speaks a lot out against me quite a bit. And so I have no idea why he's got it out for
I've
me.
never seen him mention you, to be honest.
Wait. You Saiten Brugegate
Yeah.
speaks
Yeah,
against
so-
I've never seen him
you?
mention you.
Yeah, I can find the tweets. I'll go
He's
dig
in the
them out,
I
but-
Hate Stephanie Club too.
Wait.
That's pretty weird.
The I Hate Stephanie Club.
No, he
You got
pals
a,
up
hey, you
with-
got a club?
No, he pals up with the people who don't. There's like a group of people who follow my tweets, even
They
though
get
they've been
cookies?
blocked for 2 years. And he pals up with them and basically agrees with them on some things. And so it's kind of like, what? How did I come on your bad side? He's paling up with atheists against me. So I don't know.
I personally haven't seen that, so I can't say.
Do you know? I'm just curious. So what's one of the things that he might have issue with? Something that you've said, or
He doesn't like, well, my form of Christianity is a little bit different than his. Coming from a Catholic background and then going into a Baptist faith right now, I've got some perspectives on Mother Mary, for example, that aren't in alignment with his perspectives on Mother Mary. And I basically just think that she should be appreciated more than she is in the Protestant church, but probably less than maybe she is in the Catholic church. There's some happy middle in there. And so he definitely disagrees with any of my takes on Mother Mary. And then
Where does he place Mary?
He as a Protestant, they basically don't really give Mary much attention at all. And
Okay.
so,
yeah.
and so the fact that I think that she, I think that she's valuable, but I'm in the middle probably because my position's in the middle. I came from one place and went to another. And
You don't believe that she has to be revered in the same way as Jesus, right?
No, exactly. So no,
Well,
I
how many
believe that,
religions do?
like respected or appreciated, that kind of thing.
I mean, Catholics
not
put her on
in
a
a-
pedestal, but they don't put her on the same level as Jesus, do they? Is she revered in that.
Well, but they have prayers to Mary, the Hail Mary.
They pray
see,
to Mary.
Catholics believe in a lot of intercessionary prayer. They believe, and these are the things I don't agree with. Like people pray to Mary, that's the Hail Mary, and on the rosary, they pray to Mary in the Catholic faith more than they pray to the Our Father. So you do like 10 Hail Marys and then one Our Father on the rosary.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I get that, but do they place her on a higher rung of the ladder?
Some actually do. Yeah, some do. You're not supposed to, but some do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be odd to me because she's not. I mean, if somebody wants to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, okay, there's divinity there, but there's no divinity when it comes to Mary. Now, there's obviously the Immaculate Conception. There's and that she's sin free, right?
Yeah, they believe that she's like a sacred vessel for
sacred
Jesus.
vessel, sin free, right?
And so they mean that then when they say full of grace, the part where the angel says Hail Mary, full of grace, the belief is that she was without sin at that point when she conceived Jesus.
Yeah, right. But that would be, that still doesn't like place her as the same equal level as like somebody who would be the son of a deity, I think. But yeah,
in the Annunciation, does the angel Gabriel actually say Hail Mary, full of grace, or was the full of grace?
I think that's actually in the Bible itself when the angel.
That's in the Bible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah.
He says Hail Mary,
I say I
full of
don't know a
grace.
lot about the Bible, but I've been around a long time.
The Lord is with you. Blessed art thou among all that. The whole Hail Mary is actually in the Bible. That's except for the Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners. That's the part the Catholics added.
Blessed art thee amongst women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Yes, that's in the Bible.
Yeah, I started memorizing the Bible, but I only got to Jesus wept and I was done. So I figured that was enough.
You got to what?
John 11:35, right?
Oh my gosh, you're crazy.
Vekyl's impressed.
Yeah, I can't even memorize that much. Oh man,
that is impressive. You memorize that much?
Yeah, it took me days.
So why did Jesus wept drive you away?
I don't even know why he was upset, but hey, he wept.
You know, he wept when he came upon somebody who died.
Bible, Steve, he's like, oh God.
There's just 2 words in that one verse.
No, it was when he came upon, I think it was Lazarus who had died, and so he wept.
But he raised him, so it was all good.
He raised him. Yeah. You know what never is in the Bible that I think is interesting? We see that Jesus wept. We see Jesus' emotions, but we never see Jesus laughed. Like they never said Jesus laughed. It must have been kind of serious.
The disciples weren't funny. They were like, they were lame. They were
like, you want us to do what? They're like, hey, all I want to do is catch fish all damn day long. And you want me to be doing what?
Right. And then they were never in on the joke.
If there was any part he might have, if there was any part he might have laughed, it would have been the part where the rich young ruler told him that he kept all of the law. So
yeah.
The part where he says, I've done all these things, where do I lack? Then Jesus told him, well, go sell all your possessions.
Yeah. Or maybe when he came up with this idea that it'd be easier to get a rich man to heaven, or no, to squeeze a camel through a needle than to get a rich man into heaven. It looks like kind of amusing.
I know we got to wrap it up. Hey, Steph, I appreciate this, man. It is getting kind of late. But Vekl, always a pleasure to talk to you, man. And Craig, liking your stuff.
Man.
And by the way, Craig, I'll ask you this: if you do find a time where you watch something and you don't think I'm right, by all means, go ahead and rant. But contact me before or after. I don't care. But at least give me some heads up so I can
yeah, sure. So far I don't think I don't,
because I don't want to get on your bad side. I don't want you to rant at me. Misunderstanding.
When Steve said
scare
this,
me.
You wouldn't believe. That's half the point.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome. I'm scaring people. Good.
Yeah, and I like Steve. I like the fact that you're listening to Craig's channel, because I think we should all promote each other's channels. So I'm going to put a link to your channel in here. If I don't already have one in my permanent links, I'll add it to my permanent links.
I'm always promoting other channels and always trying to help them out. And usually what happens is I just get crapped on at some point, But hey, thanks for helping me start a channel. Thank you for promoting my channel. But hey, you know what, Steve, you're just a piece of crap because I got a virtual signal to this group over here that hates you. Okay, whatever.
No, before Craig and Vekl, before you guys joined, Steve said something really funny. He's perusing down YouTube and he sees this like a Minecraft video that says all of a sudden Steve exposed.
Minecraft, let's play Steve exposed. Vekl knows this. I don't get it. My name is literally out every day on some video. Like I've done something so horrific,
like some
right?
It's like,
trust me.
Hashtag Steve kicks puppies, right?
G-Man and I know all about it. Yeah. Trust me, we know.
No, you guys get it too. I mean, hey, look,
but G-Man way more than I do.
G-Man gets it big time. I keep seeing the Geek Room and Dragnet. They're all posting stuff on G-Man.
I am no big fan of G-Man for various reasons, but I will do this because I'm an honorable guy. one of the reasons I started having issues with a certain group is because even G-Man and Rocket Ronnie, True Empiricism, people were making things personal with them in their real lives that I had an issue with. And so I don't like it when you make, like, for example, I had a disagreement with Vekl and I start calling Vekl's work. I start calling his, boss. I start, sending emails to whatever. Then you're done. That is unethical. And it doesn't matter who you're doing it to, right? There's a problem. Now, if there's safety considerations, I get that, right? I mean, there are some people out there that are so viciously toxic. Like, for example, like Pat Towel. That, to me, when you're promoting death, there's an argument to be had there. But something like G-Man, why would somebody go after him in real life? I don't get that. It's just, to me, is dishonorable. It's unethical. And to complain like Ronnie, Ronnie lives in a poor part of Chicago. He works at this, blah, blah, blah. That's not a reason to go after somebody if you think his argument's wrong. I had a debate with Ronnie, but I showed he was wrong by using, evidence. And so I noticed these groups personally attack people frequently because that's all they do. And I don't want to be a part of that. Right? Personal attacks are not an argument, a refutation to an argument.
I agree. And I've had it done to me, so I can completely relate.
Well, Vekl's had it done to him. I've seen that.
Yeah, you've had it done too, Vekl?
Yeah.
Not
much as G-Man.
Not as nearly as bad as what's happened to G-Man. So I don't know. I mean, the closest I've gotten is people showing me pictures of where I live. And
that's scary, ain't it?
That is.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Really,
but I usually
the implication is a threat.
I usually follow it up by saying things like, "Oh, so you know all this about me? Well, so let me ask you, do you know how many tools I have in my house? And if so, where do I put them?" They're like, "Tools? What do you mean?"
Yeah, that's pretty scary, though.
I like the Second Amendment.
Anybody that involves people's real life for things that happen on the internet, to me, they are a flaming piece of crap. Even people that I know, if I hear them going after people like that, I have shat on them. And when people Steve or Chess dox people, that's never happened. And when people say like, "Oh, well, Steve has this army that he goes like investigating people," no, that's not me. That is other people that do that. I have had my records pulled by people trying to do background checks with me. Guess what they found? Bump kiss. What are they going to find? A bankruptcy that I had in 2005? Oh, whoopee! I'm a bad person. Because my ex stole thousands of dollars from me and ruined my credit. Guess what? It happens in relationships. Okay.
Oh, Steve, that's one to ask you. Are you still in contact with that one girl you were roommates with for a while? What was her name?
No.
I forgot her name.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
He has a new girlfriend. Sweet heathen.
The only person allowed to call. Look, the only person allowed to call her my girlfriend is Manya. She said, because she's not technically my girlfriend, but Manya is allowed to say that. But no, she's a friend of mine that happens to be a girl that I go out with.
And she identifies as a girl anyway, right? Okay.
Yeah, she identifies as a girl. Yeah. From what I remember, that seems to be the case. Yes.
Okay.
You guys. Wow. No, it's all good. It's so anyway, I guess we can go ahead and close this out. I do appreciate even the impromptu show ups with Vekl and Craig, and of course I always appreciate having Steve on here too. And so I think it's been a nice conversation.
I do. I'm going to be doing the circuits a little bit more in the next couple months, and I appreciate the channels that are having me on to have open dialogue. They're welcome to come on my channel as well, because I don't think that we should shut down conversations with people we disagree with. And as I do this more with Reasons to Believe, I want people to be involved in that, both theist and non-theist, right? I want to carry on the conversation, and because they've got a pretty big audience, and I want people from my audience to engage with their audience, and let's see where it ends up. Right. And so the fact that you have some reach to theist, I want them to be part of that. And so come find me on YouTube. If you think I've got logical errors or whatever, write me a message, leave a comment, whatever. Just do so respectfully. Because I got to tell you, I am past the point where if somebody comes across to me as just hostile and negative and character assassination, they just get blocked off the bat. They don't get a response. They get nothing. Because I have thousands of people I deal with. That's not the kind of person I want to have around. I don't want them as a sub. I don't want them as a Patreon. That's the kind of things that I do not want. I want the people to say, "Hey, Steve, here's your argument. Let me show you why you're wrong." And we can spend time talking about that. I don't think that's too much to ask, is it, SJ, Vekl, Craig?
No, I agree.
No, it's how it should be done.
You
And there
have
you
way
go.
more patience than I do.
Let
I'd
theists
say.
know I'm ready for it.
It's
You know.
Vekl.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. This has been nice. So, well, yeah, I agree. We'll have to set up some more chats and all that kind of good stuff. And I think for the most part, the chat's been pretty pleasant today. I hit some mods, kind of blocking a couple comments here and there, but for the most part, people have been pretty decent.
I could tell they're talking to people that I have blocked, so I can't see a lot of people what they're saying because I have a lot of people in the audience literally blocked, so I can't see what they're saying. But I see people referring to people that I have blocked. Okay, whatever.
Oh, really? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, I unblocked everybody here on
there's
my
some people-
Twitter.
Well, no, I have
site.
them blocked.
I have them all blocked on
If
my.
I have them blocked,
no,
I can't see
No, I'm
them.
just saying I've unblocked because I actually found some people who were blocked, and I think some of my mods might have blocked some people. So I unblocked everybody, and then they're all blocked on Twitter.
All
so
I see is like
people-
blue wrenches. That's all I'm literally seeing is blue wrenches, and maybe an occasional non-blue wrench.
If you
Yeah,
have a
so
question,
true.
Gavin, if you want to ask it, we did do a little bit of a Q&A before, but if there's a question you want to throw in there. Oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do a link to the gumballs. So I'll definitely put links to Steve's stuff and
Oh,
links.
thank
to
you. Yeah,
his blog
please let
that
me
we went
know.
to
I want people to read it and evaluate it as written rather than some of the nonsense stuff that I've gotten on it, because Vekl and Craig, I'm sure know, Landon is the smart guy. And if he says he doesn't see a problem with it, I want to know if Landon's wrong, because I'll go, hey, Landon, you messed up on this, man, if the logic isn't correct. But you know what we do? If the logic isn't correct, you know what we do? We fix it.
Yeah, you fix the logic. It's incorrect. So
Right.
yeah, so you might have, do you have Ronan Kanushi and Tony Designs blocked?
The second one I do, the first one, I don't know who they are.
Okay. Okay. So that's yeah, because they're they're in the chat here. So okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I want to say thank you. I'm going to put links to everybody's channels in here and all that kind of stuff too, so you guys can find these people, and please go and like and subscribe to their channels too. All right. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end it. Do you guys want to say anything before I end it? One final party comment?
No, I'm good. Thank you guys. Seriously. I like these kind of just kickback chats, and anytime that you have them, if I'm around, just send me a message.
Yeah, they're
this
more
was
pleasant
fun.
than debates, aren't they?
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to see you again, Steve and
Yeah.
Craig. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Looking up your channel in the future.
This was
awesome.
good. Good times all around.
All
A good
right.
time was had by all.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.